Welcome everybody. Welcome back to MUFC versus everybody. I am Sean. I am your host, and I'm just happy you guys are back today as we dive into my match reaction to Newcastle United versus Manchester United. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you guys see me okay? I might be a little bit ahead of the stream here. Let's just hold on 1 second here. Make sure everybody's here. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me okay. We're having a little technical difficulties today. Sorry about that. I'm getting a black screen over here. How are you guys doing today? Oh, it looks better. All right. Good deal. All right. So welcome back to the channel, everybody. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Just want to close that out. Let's try this again. Welcome back to MUFC versus everybody. I'm Sean. And this is the channel that, we need another Manchester United fan channel. But yeah, we talk about everything Manchester United related. And today we are jumping into my match reaction as United hold out to secure a vital 3 points against Newcastle United. If you're just joining the stream, apologies for the late start. Apologies for the shaky start. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. For some reason, my screen preview is not working on YouTube. It's just showing a black screen, but it does look like it's working just fine when I check it on YouTube. So we're going to keep going. You guys let me know in the chat if there's anything going on that I need to know about, but we're going to get stuck in. Before we do get started, please, as always, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new and you don't mind a couple technical difficulties now and then. But also go check me out on Twitter, MUFC versus everybody. I did a lot of tweeting during the match today because there was a lot to get excited about, and there's a lot to touch on. So we'll do my initial reaction today. I'll come back tomorrow for my 3 thoughts on the match, and then depending on if Ten Hag does a presser or anything, we might do our match preview ahead of the weekend as well. So let's dive right in. It was really pleased. I was pleased to see Ahmad get another start. I really felt, like I said in my last video, he and Amrabat, I did feel like deserved more minutes, and Ahmad especially deserved to start. And you can tell he was hungry. He was trying to make things happen. And Ahmad's a fighter, y'all. The guy was getting stuck in off the ball. He was controlled on the ball. I think the word I would say tonight would be composure. We saw a lot of composure from a lot of players. There were really good spells of play where we were really keeping the ball on the ground. We were moving it really well. And then there were other parts where it was difficult for us to get a couple passes together. And then, fair play to Newcastle. They do press us. We do tend to fall apart sometimes against sides that do press us. So I think that we did play well. And I think that we played well against Arsenal too. I said that in my Arsenal reaction, in my 3 thoughts. I thought we have played well. I thought I've seen a shift in the way we've been playing these last few matches where we are a little more controlled. We are a little bit more composed and patient. But because it's kind of new, there are some growing pains involved in that. And so we're not going to look totally fluid, but I did like what I've seen. So if you saw the starting 11 ahead of the match, it did kind of look like Bruno was back, which was great, back from being out for a couple matches. But it also looked like he was lining up as a striker. And I know some of the commentators were saying, he was playing a false 9. And yeah, he was playing his normal role. The starting lineup had McTominay lining up as a striker. Or McTominay lining up as a 10. It was flip-flop. McTominay was really playing as that striker role. He was trying to make runs off the shoulder. He was trying to grit on the end of goal kicks. He was trying to get on the end of things to try to score, and Bruno was dropping back a lot to create as he normally does. And so it is what it is. No Højlund was a bit of a surprise. I think this is, I don't know if he was just giving him a rest because he's been playing a lot, maybe mentally giving him a rest, emotionally giving him a rest, right? Because there's a lot of pressure there for such a young striker when you haven't been scoring and not getting the touches that he requires. We're going to come back to that a little later on. Maybe Ten Hag was easing some of that pressure. We know that sometimes managers do take players out of the spotlight for a second when they need to. And for a second there, I thought maybe Ten Hag was losing faith in Højlund, but I don't think that's it. Ten Hag signed Højlund. He believes in Højlund. He's backed him several times in public. nothing wrong with there. So, but it was a bit of a surprise. But this is where man management comes into play. We know that Sir Alex used to keep players hungry. Kind of, he could tell which players maybe would benefit from getting a little impatient, getting a little hungry on the bench. And I think that there was an element of that tonight for Hoyland. You could tell when he came on, he was up for it. He was ready to go. And y'all, he scored with his first touch of the ball on his weaker foot as well. So, and this is what bugs me about people who complain about Bruno and that he's like selfish or whatever. Bruno is the most unselfish number 10 I've ever seen. The guy literally, like when Wheatley came on for his debut a few weeks ago, Wheatley said after the match, Bruno told him, "I'm going to get you a goal." Like Bruno looked for Hoyland. He looks for Garnacho. He looks for his teammates. I think he's number 10. Those midfielders, they love creating chances. They love creating opportunities for their teammates. It's what they live for. And Bruno exemplifies that. So the Bruno haters were pretty quiet tonight because this was a captain's performance from Bruno. He was all over the pitch. He was getting involved. He was composed. He was active. He was winning headers, some goal kicks. He was linking up. He was doing everything he needed to do. And this is a guy who's been injured and he still has a broken hand. And so Bruno haters can sit down, shut up, and deal with it. And maybe, I don't know, try supporting your player for once in your life. How about that? I feel like 80% of these Bruno haters are still Pogba fans, Pogba FC. And I don't have anything personal against Pogba, but he's gone. He didn't want to be here. He's gone. Why are you still carrying around this Bruno hate? It just boggles my mind. So, looking at some of my notes as the match was going on. So the first half, I thought that we started a little shaky when I know I just said we were moving the ball. That was a little later on. The first, kind of as we kind of felt out the game, it's always a little shaky first and foremost, especially, with a pressing side like Newcastle. You never know what's going to happen. I thought Garnacho was a little sloppy. We weren't moving the ball as well. When we were trying to carry the ball, we were getting dispossessed one or two times. And so it was a little sloppy, a little weak in possession. It did get better as the first half went on, especially as we got into the final third. I know against Burnley and against Arsenal, our passing and our crisp kind of 1-2s and link-up play in the final third and around the edge of the box was greatly improved. And it was the same tonight. We were getting in really good positions. We were moving the ball really well. It's just that final ball is just not quite dialed in. But I think the more we can play like this, the more we can dial in. And it's the same with goal kicks when it comes to dialing in while I'm on that subject of being dialed in. Even long passers of the ball, people who take corner kicks or whatever, it takes a little bit of time as you get into the match to dial that in, to read, rely on the depth perception, get your timing right, get on the same page with your teammates. And so people who were criticizing Onana for giving the ball away, that was more a result of the result of not putting the ball in the space and trying to find teammates who had their backs to the opposition goal. And that's a result of us taking a little too long to launch that attack. When you do that, the counterattack opportunity is gone. And now instead of just putting it into space, which is a lot easier to do, he's trying to find a teammate who's facing him, which is always going to give the opposition time to come back and win that ball. It wasn't Onana's fault. There were a couple that went right to Newcastle, but some of those other ones, like the one that led to an opportunity in the second half, was because we're awful at winning the second ball. We don't win the second ball hardly ever, and we need to do better at waking up in those moments and stop just waiting to see what happens. So I thought we did really well too in the first 15 minutes to press, and we were winning the ball high up the pitch over and over again, which I thought was really good. I think that's exactly how Ten Hag wants us to play, and it was nice to see. And it's interesting, just changing the personnel to see who can offer something. Ahmad was working really hard. Garnacho was working really hard. Bruno obviously always works really hard, and I thought Ahmad, again on and off the ball, he was a revelation. I'm not saying he's world class or anything, but you could tell he was up for it. Garnacho, I think out of all the people up front, he was the one who's in recent weeks has looked a little he's cutting a bit of a frustrated figure. He's starting to remind me a bit of Rashford when Rashford his body language was not that great. Getting frustrated when he's not getting the ball. He's trying to do a little too much on his own. He's not passing the ball enough. He gave away a couple of really sloppy passes unnecessarily early on. There was that one he tried to play back to Evans for some reason and just gave it right to the Newcastle player, and then he just stopped. Like he couldn't believe that happened. Like I think he thought the ball had gone out of play or something, but it doesn't matter. You keep playing till you hear the whistle, and so he needs to iron some of that out of his game. And it's normal. He's a young kid. He's going to have these periods of dip in form, but I think that he's in one of those dips in form right now because he's just not been quite his normal effective self in recent weeks. So I hope that by the time we play Brighton, by the time we get to the final, that he will be back up on the ascendancy in terms of form, because we need him. We're better with him when he's playing well. But it's going to be a bit of a selection headache for Ten Hag heading into the final. The Brighton game could be a deciding factor because it's going to, right now, I think that spot on the right-hand side is Ahmad's to lose. And with Rashford and Antony and Garnacho, obviously Antony is probably the lowest on the pecking order. But if I had to choose, I'd probably put Rashford on the left and Ahmad on the right going into Brighton, and maybe bring on Garnacho on the right and see who, give them the opportunity to show who needs to play. Having a selection headache is probably the best problem you can have as a manager. Again, I thought Bruno was very composed, a lot more composed than we've seen him. The moment that stuck out to me in terms of just calm, patient, composing leadership was late in stoppage time in the first half. We had the ball. It was coming off of a corner, I believe. We had the ball kind of just outside, just kind of in the final third, but not quite in the edge of the box or anything. We were up there. We had a lot of our players up there. We could have tried to go for one. We could have tried to get another goal in those last minute and a half or so, but the ball finds its way to Bruno. And instead of kind of inviting the pressure and staying in that congested area, he shows a bit of discernment in that moment. And to relieve the pressure on his teammates, he just makes a really long back pass to Onana. And you could just feel, it was palpable. It was just that pressure was just eased and everything was fine. And we saw it that first half and everything was fine. And that's what you need from players in those moments, is recognize when the pressure's to recognize when the situation's not ideal, and recognize, the vulnerability you might have if you lose the ball. And instead of trying to force it and waiting to see what happens, you just make the decision itself. And yeah, it may be boring you may waste a minute of time, but that's what you have to do. I've said it many, many times. When you're defending a lead, when you're up by a goal and there's a few minutes left, slow things down, make the game boring. That's fine. It's called control. It's called seeing out a result. It's called protecting the lead. And that's what you need to do. And the more we can improve on just keeping the ball, passing it well, and making those kind of decisions, instead of, sometimes you have to go back to go forward. It's like I've said before, it's like shooting a bow and arrow. You got to pull it back to shoot it forward. And that's what Bruno did. And that's what you need to see from him a little more often. So we're getting into the second half. It was pretty clear early on, and it was more evident in the second half, that Newcastle's aim was to basically man mark us, all our defenders and our double pivot players, Manu and Amrabat, basically man mark them whenever Onana had the ball. They know that we want to play out from the back, and that's how we build up. And they know that if they just man mark, they're going to win the ball back. And they almost got it a couple times. And so what that did is also force us to kick it long, which we're not used to. And we're not used to that. Like I said earlier, when you're not dialed in yet, because it is a new technique for us. Obviously, Onana does have good distribution, but you can't just expect a perfect ping pass right off the bat cold when that's not the way we've been playing. And so they won a few balls. I think in the first half, when it came to the goal kicks, we were winning a lot of those first balls, and we saw a couple of those flicked headers from those goal kicks find Garnacho or find McTominay and create opportunities. So we were getting chances. I think Newcastle just woke up a little bit. They threw a little bit more physicality in there, and they were starting to win those balls. And again, we weren't winning the second ball, which caused us problems as well. I think we could have gone to Garnacho a little bit more. I know I've mentioned in past videos that we do that too much sometimes, but when the opportunity is on, you have to take it. And I think that moment of indecisiveness when Onana has the ball, or we get possession in our box off a corner or something, and there's that second of space and time where the attackers are on the break. Onana deciding, hey, this is how we normally play, playing out from the back slow, keeping on the floor, but then the opportunity's on. That moment of indecisiveness because of Newcastle's defending and man marking caused a little bit of hesitancy, which killed the opportunity. And so instead of playing it centrally to McTominay, we need to play it wide and then move it centrally once we get the ball. And focus on getting the ball first, which means you play the best percentage pass there is. It's much easier to play the ball in the space on the wide channels than it is to try to play it to a teammate with their back to goal and hope that it doesn't go bouncing someplace else. So we were actually able to win the ball and create something from some goal kicks, like I said, but again, it was just taking a little too long. I thought that, so Newcastle came back to equalize, right? And I thought that Dalot, people were blaming Casemiro, but you can't blame Casemiro without also blaming Johnny Evans. And in that situation, you can't really do much in that situation when a low whipped cross comes into your box, because anything you do, because it's whipping too fast to get onto it and redirect it the opposite direction, the only thing you're going to do is probably deflect it into your own goal. Well, the Dalot should not have let that ball come in that easily is the issue. And our fullbacks do this a lot. We don't get tight enough to the opposition wide players when they put crosses in the box. And Dalot was caught behind that, and he was kind of jogging back. You needed to get tight. Just put a little pressure. You don't have to tackle someone, but just put a little pressure on them. Force them to hit it on a bobble. Force them to hit it into you. Force a corner if you need to, but don't let them get such an easy ball into the box. I'm not saying it's 100% possible to stop every single cross, but you have to at least do better at trying to stop it. He didn't really try to close the ball down. So second half started off a little strong. Obviously, Eddie Howe had some words with his players at halftime, and they came out and they were stronger side coming out. It wasn't until about late in the 68th minute or so that we started to regain a little bit of control, momentum. We started moving the ball much, much better around that 68th, 70th minute time. And then we make some subs. We get to see Licha come back in, which was awesome. He made a vital tackle. Rashford came in, and Rasmus Højlund came in, which I thought was great. And what did I tell you all about Rasmus Højlund in my last video? Get him the ball, and he will score goals. Again, he scored on his first touch after he came on as a sub, guys. I mean, Ollie is right now somewhere with a single tear dripping down his face going, fantastic. Højlund scores goals that probably just jumped his goal conversion rate to 25, 26%. It wasn't 22. The kid scores goals. And so it was great to see that. It was great for him. I was so happy for him. But then again, in true United fashion, we don't make it easy on ourselves, do we? It got really dicey. Newcastle came back to equalize, and it got dicey. And what about Ahmad's goal, though, guys? Who did that remind you of? That reminded me of Paul Scholes. Simple set piece, corner, comes back out to the edge of the box, and he just rifles it. That was a heat-seeking missile into the net, and he was wanting that. You can tell all game he was wanting those chances, and he got it, and it was beautiful, and it was perfect. And I think that one, along with Mainoo's goals against Wolves, and of course, along with Garnacho's goal, might be the top 3 goals of the season so far. That was a thing of beauty. And so, well done to Ahmad. We got to give props to Casemiro. I know we've been dissing him a lot in the last few weeks just because of some really poor decision-making, some really lazy play overall, and just substandard performances from Casemiro. But he came up clutch twice in the span of a few minutes there at the end. So, I tweeted when it happened that Amrabat just needed to get rid of it. So Amrabat tried to control this ball, and then he tried to play it off his thigh, moving back towards his own goal while he was under pressure, which you never, ever want to do. And any of you young players out there, don't do that, all right? When in doubt, kick it out. I don't care what the situation. I don't care if your manager screams at you. I don't care. In that situation, Amrabat needed to just boot it anywhere, not try to dribble it when he's got a Newcastle player literally breathing down his neck, because it gave away possession, created an opportunity, and Casemiro had to come in and with a clutch tackle, by the way. You won't see a whole lot of more perfect slide tackles in your own box than that. He's very fortunate, but that was the experience that he has. And I think that and then coming in later on off that headed effort from Dan Byrne, for Casemiro to head that and clear it off the line, there was probably like 4 millimeters left before it crossed the line completely, and Casemiro cleared that thing, and that is clutch. That is the thing that you get from guys like Casemiro or Varane or Evans that you won't get from young defenders who, yeah, they're very, very good, like a Saliba or something. Not quite yet, because that's the kind of thing that comes from years of experience, knowing where the danger is coming from, knowing where to put yourself. That can only come from experience. The same with striker for Højlund. There's a lot of aspects to Højlund's game that you're not going to see for 4, 5, 6 years because he's just young. A lot of that stuff's only going to come from experience. It bugged me when people want to compare Højlund to Haaland or like Lewandowski or somebody or Harry Kane. Like, why are we? If you compare every single striker in the world to Erling Haaland or Harry Kane or Robert Lewandowski, of course, everyone's going to look like a failure. You can't pick the outlier freaks of nature to compare people to. That's not fair. Like, so let's chill. Let's let Højlund grow and develop. Let's support him. Like, why is it so easy for people to support Højlund than to support Bruno or Rashford or something? Like, just let's stick with it here. So obviously, we saw out the result at a good clearance, took the ball to the corner, and the ref blew the whistle, which I think there was a noticeable just awe of relief when that happened. I was relieved. I was dicey there at the end, like I said, but we saw out the 3 points, and it was a vital 3 points. We needed those 3 points. Ten Hag had some closing words for the fans. Obviously, it was our last home match of the season. We saw some farewells from Raphael Varane and Anthony Martial, who are both leaving as free agents this summer. So they'll be available for free like De Gea was. De Gea still doesn't have a club, so I don't know what's going on with De Gea, but hopefully these guys find some clubs. Martial's not a bad player. He's just injury prone, and Raphael Varane is, obviously older, a bit more. The injuries are picking up a little bit more frequently now, and so maybe he'll go back to Lens. I know I said Ron yesterday when I was talking about it. It's Lens. I misspoke yesterday. But he could go back there and kind of see out his career at his boyhood club. He could go to the Saudi League if he wanted to. Who knows what's going to happen with Varane or Martial. Martial's what, 27, 28. He could still have 3, 4, 5 years to play. Maybe some Saudi clubs might be looking at Martial. I don't know. I was a little frustrated and very, very disappointed and almost even a bit ashamed at our fan base at Old Trafford when Ten Hag was speaking. What the F were the boos while Ten Hag was speaking and addressing and showing his appreciation and his respect? He literally started by saying that you guys have backed them and he's thankful for the support, and you guys are booing him. What the F, man? Like, that's classless. Don't boo the manager when he's showing you appreciation and he's thanking you. Don't boo the manager, period. What is the matter with you guys? I was thankful for when he said, hey, we, next after Brighton, we go to Wembley. There were a lot of cheers for that. I mean, that's what you want to hear from your fan base. That's what we should be doing. Again, you don't have to say anything. Like, why are people booing? It doesn't make sense to me. Like, support your players, support your manager, support your club. Hoping that they do poorly, hoping that we lose matches is just weird. We saw Ange Postecoglou going on a Spurs fan during their match yesterday for hoping that they lost against City just so Arsenal don't win the title. Like, that's a bit tin pot, in my opinion. You should want your team to win everything. If Spurs won and Arsenal won the title as a result, yeah, forget the rivalry for a second, but just you win a match, like, I don't know, it's weird to me. Maybe, I don't know, call me. I'm not someone out here that, again, like I said the other day, I'm not going to tell people what is a good or a bad fan. I'm not going to say this or that. It's just weird to me. Maybe I'm just different than a lot of fans. I know I'm not the only one though who feels that way. So let me know what your thoughts are on that. Overall in the match, like I said, going into it, it's a big 6-pointer for us. It does keep Newcastle level with us. I'm just checking the table again. It does keep them level with us. Let's look at the stats real quick from this match. So So we didn't have as much possession as we have had in recent weeks. We only averaged about 45% possession. Few expected goals, but look at this big chances, guys. We had 2 big chances, so we didn't have any chances in the last 2 matches, any big chances. And then Bruno shows up, and we get chances. 8 shots on target, 17 total shots. Like, that's really good. 14 of those shots were from inside the box, so it was pretty neck and neck. It was basically a slugfest. We were winning some tackles. We made 13 interceptions. I think that was the key right there. 13 interceptions to Newcastle's 3. So like I said, we're able to move the ball a little bit better. We were winning a few aerial duels. So all in all, a good match. Let me check this table again. So Newcastle level with us on points, and they sit ahead of us 7th. We're not going to catch them on goal differential. They were at plus 21. We're at -3. So they're in 7th, we're in 8th, both on 57 points. Newcastle played Brentford this weekend. Brentford, who actually been doing pretty well in the last 4 or 5 matches. They've got 3 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw in their last 5. And so they could surprise Newcastle, which could help us. Obviously, you don't like being in that position where you're hoping people lose just so you can boo, but that's where we are. Chelsea, other match today, Chelsea did beat Brighton, which kept them at 60 points in 6th place. Probably not going to catch those guys, so 6th place does look out of reach. So it does look like the best we can hope for would be 7th. 8th is the worst we can do, so it's not ideal. 7th would be better than 8th, but 7th is still 7th, so it is what it is. So 6th is out of reach any way you slice it. 7th is probably out of reach unless Newcastle lose or draw and we win. And we play Brighton, who are, they're not great. Obviously, last year there was that bit of that new manager bounce, and this year they've struggled to replicate that form. They've lost some key players, yes, but again, it's about, we saw this kind of under Ollie. He went on a really good run, and then things kind of equaled out. It's just called regressing to the mean, and we see it. There's a reason the term new manager bounce is a thing. We saw it with Ange Postecoglou this year. He started off well. Everybody was so excited, attacking ball. They have not done great in their last several matches. Where are Spurs at right now? So obviously they're ahead of us, but they've only have 1 win in their last 5 matches. They've got 1 win in their last 6 matches, guys. They've failed to score in 3 of those matches. But people still going on and on about Ange Postecoglou ball. Yeah, they have some fast players, and they play really attacking ball, and it's very high intensity, very high risk, though. It reminds me a lot of when Jurgen Klopp first showed up. So we'll see how they do next year. It's funny that Ange was talking all this good stuff earlier in the season. Like, I don't know why people complain about not having players or having injuries, and then he turns around and complains about it like last week. Like, I don't have the players I need. Like, which is it, man? You were talking all that good shit a second ago, and now you lost that bass in your voice, man. Why don't you stick that in your kangaroo pouch and hop away, man? Like it's just funny. This is why, remember when I said early on, like, I don't put too much stock into what managers say in pressers, because they say stuff like that. So when people go in on Ten Hag and pressers, first of all, with Ten Hag, we give him a little bit of grace, because it's very clear Ten Hag is not a great communicator. English is not his first language. He struggles a bit to find the right words sometimes, and I think a lot of things get lost in translation. And I know it sounds like I'm making excuses. I'm just saying there's a clear difference between someone like Ange Postecoglou addressing the press and someone like Ten Hag addressing the press. It's a personality difference. It's a language difference. There's a lot going on. So let's try to keep that in mind. That's my initial reaction. It was a vital 3 points. I know I've said that many times. I know I said that going into the match in my match preview, but we needed those 3 points. We needed them so badly, and I'm so glad we got them. I'm so glad for Rasmus Højlund. I'm so glad for Amad Diallo. Like, we really, really needed those goals for those guys. I think Amad should start the rest of the season, in my opinion. Let Garnacho and Rashford kind of fight it out for that left-hand side. And then obviously we can rotate as we need to. And then, oh, and then Manu's goal too. I thought that was offside for a second there, but it clearly was not on the replay. But yeah, how composed was he today? I remember I tweeted, he got, I think it was a goal kick. It went straight to him, and he just took that down expertly on his chest, but the touch from his chest dropped it right into his stride, and he just kind of, his next touch with his foot just kind of took it where he needed to go, and he just completely just didn't look like it was a thing for him, like he was just playing in the yard. So we need to build around Kabi Manu. He is the key. He is the truth. He is the answer. Doesn't matter what the question is. He is the answer. Kabi Manu character syndrome. He is the main guy. Build around him for the future and watch us cook. That's my reaction to Newcastle. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new. Please go check me out on Twitter, MUFC versus everybody. And please come back tomorrow as I give my 3 thoughts on the match. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow.